Welcome back to another episode of the Pursuit of Myself. I am Rayne, your host. I am always delighted to be here. There is so much happening in the world right now that it is kind of blowing my tiny mind, or my expanded mind, I should say. Not that we're going to go in deep into politics and all the things that are happening, but we can't deny the collective that it is really starting to have a big impact on everyone, on conversation, on opinions, left, right, blah, blah, blah. And the biggest thing that I'll say in all of this is when I am reading and listening, and yes, I have my opinions, and yes, I have a way in which I tend to lean, but can you hold space for other people's opinions? And can you hold space for other people's experiences and thoughts? Because if we are living in a world where we have to shut everything else around us down so that we feel safe, so that we feel seen, is that really safety? Or are we just shielding ourselves to the point where we don't know that we can actually be safe if someone else is different to us? And this is what I'm seeing a lot of at the moment. And the problem that I'm finding with social media, let's say, is we actually have the ability, yes, to unfollow the things that don't align with us, unfollow the narratives that we don't agree with. But then also what happens is every social media that we see, whether it be Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is, you're only getting the threads of the things that align and that you connect with. So what has been interesting is also with my children and the way that they use social media, as I'm thinking, wow, I wonder what perspective that they're getting. And I wonder what they're seeing, and I wonder what they're thinking. And I wonder if they're able to see differing opinions and hold space for different values and different ideas. And I don't know what else I'll say about that other than if you're finding things quite polarizing at the moment, notice in your body what feels safe and what doesn't feel safe. And if you're not feeling safe around other people's opinions or ideas, if you feel like you're wanting to cut them out of your life or cut things to make you feel safe, I would explore and give yourself a permission slip to actually go inwards. Because in all the work that we do, we need to find ourselves as the source. We need to be able to sit with ourselves, with our nervous systems. And this isn't a opportunity to, as I say, cut everything out of our life that doesn't align. But this is an opportunity to go, can I be in this space with someone that maybe does have a different opinion? What does it actually do to my body when someone challenges me or we have an open discussion? For me, my partner and I are very, very different on a lot of levels, which is quite interesting. So we have a lot of quite interesting conversations. But the one thing I've learned in our sort of 3.5, or even more than that now, years, is I've really learned how to hold space and respect someone and love someone deeply, even though, quote unquote, our opinions don't align on many things. It is that ability for me to feel safe and not abandon myself that allows me to speak up, allows me to have an opinion, because we talk about this in this work, self-abandoning is not an option when it comes to being in a relationship with people, with money, with family, with whatever it is, with yourself. And I just wanted to preface that on here with everything that's going on. Are you able to be in the presence of people that have different opinions and still feel safe in your body and be respectful and have open conversations and open debates and see different sides of the coin without feeling like you have to be right, without feeling like you have to change someone's mind, without feeling like you have to be righteous? Or are you leaning into being the victim to your story, that I can't be around these people because these people have different opinions, we have different values? Where is that coming from? This is the deep investigation into self. So instead of, if you find yourself feeling triggered, if you find yourself feeling overwhelmed, if you find yourself feeling want to run and hide and be quiet when different things and opportunities come up, ask yourself, how can I go inwards and feel safe here? How can I hold space for everyone around me? It doesn't make anyone right, doesn't make anyone wrong, even though we can be so deep in our convictions. But how can I do that? That's a beautiful little practice. And the more integrated you can become with yourself, the more safe you feel being seen and having a voice, ironically, is the safer that you will feel around people having a voice and them being seen. So it's a really beautiful lesson in connection if you're going through any of that. But let me know on Instagram or let me know in the comments, does this resonate? Are you feeling triggered by other people's opinions or families shutting you down? But where is that trigger coming from? Is it because you then feel like you can't have a voice, you can't have a say because your opinion's not being held? Or what's actually going on underneath? Do a bit of investigation and let me know. Again, so in other news, what have we got going on? We've got the 10 weeks of Align and Elevate is up. My last round of Align and Elevate, and we are doing, or we've already done actually, the celebration ceremony, because I've taken these women from triggered, overwhelmed, self-doubt, second-guessing themselves to literally manifesting, traveling, booking trips, making more money. It's a really incredible process that I've been teaching for 6 or 7 years, and I wasn't ready to let that go until I had the spark to really create the MiSELF Academy. And what does the MiSELF Academy look like? Well, it looks like Align and Elevate maturing. And that's what I've done. So I have launched the MiSELF Method, which is my new group program, which is setting up the foundations that you all need to be able to go after the things that you want, to be able to hold space when you're around people with different conversations, to understand yourself. How are you relating with yourself? Who are you? You can only meet people as deeply as you can meet yourself, right? What is your relationship with yourself? What is it like? And if you don't know who you are, because clarity comes with action, clarity on self-identity comes with action, then reach out, because this is the program that is dedicated solely to transforming you from an ego-driven, I can't, second-guessing, I can't be seen, I'm less than life, to showing up in your beautiful self authentically, loudly, and loudly can look different for everyone, in your ability to be confident and seen, so that you can really know what it is that you're after and what you're going for, what you're wanting, I should say. So that is happening. If you are interested, the MiSELF Method, if you are wanting to build that strong connection with yourself, if you're wanting to learn in community, if you're wanting to create something that needs a strong foundation so that if that wind blows, you don't get blown and pushed over with it. You need to build those roots up for that tree to be able to stand strong, then this is for you. Reach out to me on Instagram, message me here. I am everywhere and I would love to have a chat with you. So without further ado, let's get on with this week's, which you're going to love, this week's episode. So here's something most people don't realize. The very parts of yourself that you've spent your whole life running from, hiding or denying, pretending it's not there, that shame, that guilt, it's actually not your weakness. What if I told you that it is your key to getting everything that you desire, everything that you want? It is the missing piece of the puzzle. Shadow work is about meeting those hidden parts. The judgments, the triggers, the patterns, the fear, the shame, the guilt. You can't seem to break it, but it's about meeting it and saying, I see you. You belong here. We are humans and we need to be whole. I'll never forget the first shadow that I consciously uncovered. I was in high school and I got back an English exam. And on that English exam was a big red mark. It was all, not one, heaps of them. My grade had been cut from 97% down to 74% because of spelling and grammar mistakes. And in that moment, not that I knew it at the time, I found out later, but I decided that I must be dumb. To see an exam result like that, I must be dumb. And that became the shadow that I shoved away for many, many years. From that day forward, I proved that I had to work hard, that I wasn't dumb. So I overachieved. I was a perfectionist. I overexplained. I had to earn my spot. And years later, getting absolutely triggered when someone pointed out a spelling mistake on my blog, I had found out about shadow work. And it was at that point that I thought, I get it now. This is how shadow work works. The parts we bury, they don't disappear. They actually come up and they run the show from the background, from your subconscious. They show up in the people that we attract, the people that we judge, in the mirrors, in the patterns that we repeat, in the moments that send us spiraling. But here's the good news. All your shadows, every shadow holds a gift. My dumb shadow, once I stopped hiding it, it freed me to write, to speak, to show up, to be seen, to share my voice, spelling mistakes and all. And I'm going to take you through that today. This is what I want to speak about on today's episode. We're going to talk about why your ego builds masks, why your ego wants to protect you, and how that actually keeps you stuck. I want to talk about how to spot your shadows, but it's something you're going to have to be really open with, because we're going to use judgments, triggers, and patternings to spot it. But most importantly, I want to teach you how to integrate them so that you can move out of the survival mode, out of the triggered state, out of the blame state, and into safety, freedom, and authentic power. So, if you've been wondering why you keep hitting the same glass ceiling in your business, if you keep wondering why you are attracting the same kind of emotionally unavailable man, if you keep wondering why your triggers are overrunning and you're running with resentment, then this is for you. Because if you're telling yourself the same self-doubt stories on repeat, you are being run by your shadow. Because what you can't be with, what you ignore, it won't let you be. And today I'm going to show you how to finally stop running from your shadow, or stop running from yourself, essentially, and start reclaiming it so that you can use that missing piece to start creating the life that you truly desire. And within that life you truly desire is a gift of emotional freedom. So let's go. Welcome to the Pursuit of MiSELF, the podcast. Here we take ownership of our healing. We rewrite the rules, we turn knowledge into wisdom, and we lead our lives with intention. I'm your host, Rayne, and it's my mission to empower you to get back into the driver's seat of your life. Okay. All right. A really interesting topic, this one, because it can be called a lot of things. And I know they're all nuanced and they've got a little bit of differences, but, what do I mean by shadow work? Shadow work over the years has evolved for me. I've learned about inner child. I've learned about the subconscious. I've learned about rewiring. We learn about the ego and the role that that plays in showing up in our lives. And in another aspect, it's sort of, on the same healing journey, is this shadow work. So what do I mean by it? The shadow is simply the parts of us that we've decided aren't acceptable. So they're the traits that we've buried to stay safe, to be loved, or belong. So we have buried, let's say, our feelings of guilt about something. We have buried our shame. We have buried, let's say you were really loud in class and someone laughed at you. You've buried that ability for you to be loud because you've made that unsafe. So these things that we learned over time, right? And we put them in our shadow because they're traits that we've buried to stay safe, to be loved, or to belong. I've got quite a few examples coming up, but even, think about the amount of times if someone teased you, if you tried to be funny and no one laughed, and then you've decided it's not safe to make jokes. It's not safe to be funny. So your whole life, you're like, maybe you end up being the shy one, or maybe you end up, claiming the fact that, no, I don't have a great sense of humor, or whatever that is. Just have a little reflect on certain things that you say about yourself, your identity, and your personality, and it will show you clues. So here's how we find the clues. So the catch is, right, what you can't be with won't let you be. So if you can't be with these disowned parts of you, they don't just disappear. They run the show from your subconscious. They run the show from the background. And this is what I mean by, if something happens and you decide that you can't be seen, you can't be loud, you can't be funny, you are a bad person, we disown them, we shove them down, and we think that they've gone, but they haven't. And here are three main ways that you can see what is running the show of your shadow. Judgments, the things that you can't stand in others, or the things that you judge in others. So that might be, someone lets their kids stay up late, and instead of it just being no worries, you judge that. You think it's not good. And I'm going to go on a bit later in this podcast and tell you what that actually means. But you judge someone maybe for the car that they drive. You judge someone for the clothes that they wear. You judge someone for how they're showing up in their marriage. You judge someone, whatever it is. Have a think about where you judge. Triggers is the next one. So when people or situations trigger you, when they set you off, this is another way that your shadow is showing up subconsciously. Remember, it doesn't disappear. It goes down into our being, and these are how it shows up. So judgments, triggers. When you are triggered by people, situations, or circumstances, when you get set off, your shadow is running the show. This is a clue. The other way that shadows show up are in patterns, the loops that you can't seem to break no matter how hard you try. So the patterns could be with your money patterns, whether you're in a feast-famine cycle. The pattern could be in the type of relationship that you attract. The pattern could be in your self-worth talk. The pattern could be in you starting a business and then pulling out. The pattern could be in, trying something new, going gangbusters and then like pulling all the way back and stopping. Like whatever your patterns are, the loops that you keep looping, these are your shadows, and this is what keeps running the show. Now, shadow work isn't about fixing these or fixing things that are broken in you. What shadow work is about is actually reclaiming what you've hidden, reclaiming the parts of you that you've hidden, because we as humans are a whole. We are integrated. So we don't have a good and a bad. Yes, we like to talk in positives and negatives, and there are things that affect our lives, whether in a positive manner or a negative manner, low vibe, high vibe, yes. But what happens is when we reject something in our body and it runs the show, what does it bring up? It brings these loops, these patterns, these negative low vibe emotions, which keep us stuck in that vibration. So shadow work is actually about integrating, loving on, allowing this part of us to be part of us, bringing the dark into the light. And I know even the word shadow, it's almost yucky. It's like dark work, but it's not. If you look at it as bringing my things that I have disowned, the darkness, and bringing them into the light, right? This is how you reclaim what you've hidden. And you'll know someone by how much work they've done, because they are able to be vulnerable. They're able to make mistakes. They're able to be honest about parts of them that they're not shy about, that they're not in shame about, because they work through the shadow, and they know that by bringing the shadow into the light, that is how the integrated being comes. This is where you get your emotional freedom that everyone so desperately wants. It's not about hiding things. This is about bringing what we've disowned to the light. So let me give you a little example in my own life. And I have many, but I know this one just pops up. It was popped up in my masterclass, so I'm going to tell you here. But in high school, right, I got back an English literature exam, and at the top was a red mark. Actually, throughout the whole paper was a red mark. I had something like 94%, and I remember it being crossed out to 73 or thereabouts. And over the whole paper was like crosses and marks, and because of all my spelling and my grammar mistakes. So I went from being elated at my mark to being, right, you must be dumb. You must be dumb. Your teacher thinks you're dumb. Whoever's seen this paper in class is going to think you're dumb. I mean, who can't spell? What a bloody idiot you are. And who can't, your terrible grammar, you must be failing English. And this is an English literature exam. I think it was like a mock exam for TE back then. So I didn't realize it at the time, but what happened is I buried that part of me really, really deep. And when you bury a part of you really deep, when you get affected, like let's call it a micro trauma, and a shadow that's been made, we bury it. And then what we do, our consciousness, our ego, then works hard to prove that I wasn't dumb, because I don't want to feel that way again. So instead of integrating that feeling, which I can actually do now, but back then, high school, I buried it. And when you bury it, your whole being wants to prove yourself that you're not dumb. So how do we do that? I overachieved. I became a perfectionist. I pushed, I strived to prove to myself or my ego that we weren't dumb and that I didn't have to feel like I hated that feeling of being dumb. And that's what the ego does. So years later, when I started blogging and when we started Instagram and all those things, I remember every time someone would point out a spelling mistake or a grammar error, I would get so triggered. I would get so triggered to the point where I couldn't write, to the point where I was like, oh my God, I'm dumb. And I never really linked it back to that moment in high school, but that's what it was about. So the thing about the shadows is they don't just sit quietly in the corner, they actually drive your behavior. So my dumb shadow had me hustling to prove myself, overreacting to criticism, and it had me exhausting myself to be seen as smart. And again, it wasn't until I was able to have the tools to look and until I owned this, until I brought this shadow, this darkness into the light, that it stopped running the show. And from then, do you know what happened? Interestingly, I started to feel freer. I started to write more, share more, speak more, show up more. Because once I had integrated that part of me, once I had gone, wow, is all that just a spelling? I mean, I got 94% in a friggin' English literature exam. Come on, that's pretty smart. But if that shadow, now that it's integrated, it freed me. I integrated it and it made me feel free. So how do I do that? Which is the interesting part, because first of all, what I do find in this whole world of self-help and this whole world of manifestation and this whole world of affirmations, if you aren't willing to look at the things that are actually keeping you stuck, how do you integrate anything and evolve so that you can move forward? We're always just band-aiding the things that we don't want to look at. And although my thing of being dumb doesn't feel so big when it comes to, trauma and shame and guilt, etc., I've got plenty more stories, but we're just using that one. Although it doesn't feel so big, it was actually showing up. And how's this? When you really dig, it was affecting me showing up. It was affecting my writing, which means it was affecting my income, which means I was abandoning myself to be someone that I'm not. It was affecting my mental health. It was taking up my mental clarity, my mental freedom. So we think this one little thing is affecting so much of my life. Have a think about this one little thing that you might have that you've hidden that is affecting your whole life, right? It doesn't have to be these big traumas, these little integrated shadows. There's these little micro traumas that happen to us. They have such a huge effect on not just the way we show up, but the way that we have freedom in our life to choose, the way that the income that we attract, the relationships we attract, how we parent, right? If I'm parenting with my shadow as if I'm dumb, right? How am I going to sit there and maybe write with my children or read with this emotional freedom? It will always sit there gnawing at you, transforming your behavior into less than, into I can't, affecting your life. So it's, and it's not just me. I worked with a woman who came to me and her thing was, I need to get to know myself because I don't want a divorce. She was desperate for more connection in her marriage and that was her primary thing. I don't want a divorce. I want a more connection. And I know that I need to figure out what's going on for me because that's the key. Perfect. First step done. 1, asking for help. 2, knowing that it was her work that she needed to do, right? Take the other party out of it. So what was her shadow? Her shadow was she was terrified of being seen as selfish. She had to be seen as selfless. She had to be seen as of service. She had to be, because she was a stay-at-home mum, she wasn't earning the money, so felt like she needed to ask permission for money to do anything for herself. Her whole identity was programmed around terrified of being seen as selfish. So every time she wanted to set a boundary or express a need, her nervous system screamed at her like, that is selfish. You don't deserve. You're not worth it. Don't do it. So instead, to cover that up, she over people pleased. She overgave. She did everything that she could to make sure that she wasn't seen as selfish. And what then transpired is she started to resent her husband because her husband wasn't seeing her. She was having in her mind to people please for him. He wasn't respecting her. He wasn't seeing her. But essentially, she resented him for not reading her mind, for not knowing what she wanted. We need to understand, one, our shadow, so that we can integrate it and then do the opposite and bring it into light and ask for what she needed. So I gave her some tools and we worked through the nervous system and we worked through higher self-worth and we worked through how to gain confidence and we worked on her intention and what she wanted, which was not wanting the divorce. She wanted more connection in her marriage. So first of all, we had to get her really super connected with herself and her shadow. Because when you have these aha moments, oh, I see that I am creating this. I have control over this. I can ask for what I need, but it's my ego that's running the show because my ego is protecting me from my shadow. My ego is protecting me from what if I speak up and he leaves? What if I speak up and someone calls me selfish? When we get to see ourselves in this different light, right, we get to be in choice of what we do next, right? And so when she did this shadow work that I took, the tools that I took her through, she realized that what she was calling selfish was actually a self-responsibility, right? She needed to take the darkness of feeling like she was being called selfish, and we put it in the light, which put it to self-responsibility. She integrated that part. And once she did, she stopped the people pleasing and started speaking really honestly with her husband. I'm interrupting this podcast episode because I have a huge announcement. The MiSELF method has launched. This is the emotional intelligence method for women building powerful, purpose-led lives. If you want results in your career, your relationships, and your bank account, it all starts here. Because real change doesn't happen through mindset hacks or hustle or pushing. It happens when your nervous system feels safe, your energy is clear, and your beliefs finally match what you want. The MiSELF method is my 10-week guided experience to help you stop spiraling, start deciding, and shift into emotional and energetic alignment that actually sticks. This is a foundational work that will change everything. I'll put a link below. Enrollments are open for our only intake for 2025. Let this be the moment that you make the choice that your life will change forever. I'll see you inside the MiSELF method. She started asking for what she needed from that heart-led, I am worthy, I am worth it place. She stopped expecting him to be able to read her mind because her intention was more connection. Her intention was to stay. Her intention was to have more intimacy in her marriage, to feel alive in her marriage again. And once she took that self-responsibility for that piece of shadow and how she was showing up, she was able to integrate that and create the most incredible result. She really was. She was able to ask for not only what she wanted in the marriage, but what she wanted in the bedroom, what she wanted in self-care. She felt alive again. And that is just one of so many stories I have working with clients to find how one little shadow piece, imagine we constantly have shadows. There is not like we have one, we heal it and see you later. We all have so many of them. And if that is the result from one integration of one shadow, because she learnt somewhere along the line that asking for what she needed was selfish and she couldn't be seen as selfish, her ego was trying to protect her, right? That was one thing. And then it transformed her whole life. Imagine what this work can do if you're really starting to uncover so many different truths about yourself, so many different ways that we show up. Because here's the truth, right? Your shadows are not here to ruin you. They're here to guide you. And every shadow you face carries the gift that you've been searching for. It carries that missing piece. But you cannot do shadow work from survival mode because your nervous system will override. Your nervous system is the boss. So if you're stuck in fight or flight, overthinking, people pleasing, avoiding, controlling, you won't feel safe enough to integrate that shadow. It's why my message is ask for help, especially women, ask for help, ask for support. Either come work with me, find a coach to work with, someone that can guide you through, because this work is quite difficult to do on its own because we need to settle the nervous system to feel safe enough to integrate the shadow, right? And that's why this shadow work and nervous system regulation It really does go hand in hand, because safety is what allows you to look at your shadows without spiraling. Safety is what allows you to look at your own shadows without judging yourself. You know, if we looked at everything that we did and judged ourselves for it, which we all do, I get that. But if we can start looking at a place of non-judgment through the lens of curiosity and through the lens of compassion, when we don't judge ourselves, we get to see ourselves in a different light, so we can start integrating what we are finding and bringing that shadow to the light. We do have a tendency to spiral if we self-judge, which is another reason why I love to put my women in community, because when we are learning and growing and in community, we get to hold each other accountable, we get to support one another, we get to encourage one another, and we actually get to heal listening to other people's stories. I mean, how beautiful is that? How many times have you gone to a friend and had a discussion about something that was going on for you, and you just feel like that just went in one ear and out the other? I didn't get what I was hoping for. They don't understand me. They don't see me, which is absolutely fine. In the moment can feel devastating, because what you want is just that someone that is there to sort of try and understand you. That's what community does. When you're all in one beautiful container, wanting to heal and grow is fucking magic. Like I'm telling you now, community is magic. So, okay, let's go back to a little bit of shadow work. So let's talk about how you start shadow work. So what I want you to do, not if you're driving, but if you do have a pen and paper next to you, I want you to go through this process. Okay, so 1, spot the shadow. Use your judgments, triggers, and patterns as your clue. I really want you to think, when was the last time I judged? What was I triggered by? What is the patterns? Find one thing to work through and work on and go through this process. Okay, so have you got that? Hopefully you've got it. Next, number 2, choose your shadow word. So what is the shadow word that triggers? What's your pattern? What's your judgment? What is it? Is it selfish, lazy? Does victim trigger you? Dumb, arrogant? There will be a word that will put you into an emotional discomfort. You'll have an emotional reaction to hearing that word. And there are many, many words. I'll put some more words at the bottom of this podcast. But have a think, what word carries an emotional charge for you when you hear it? Where do you go? Where does your body go? Does it go into reaction? Does it go into, ugh, it's not me? Does it go into, I can't, like, what is their emotional reaction to your word? Okay. Next, number 3, we turn the mirror inward. Ask yourself and be honest. This is the hard part. Where does this word live in me? What am I making it mean about me? So let's say you see someone that's driving a really beautiful car and you're like, oh my God, Western suburbs, typical, like Porsche, Cayenne, whatever, like must be unhappy, like whatever it is that you're judging. Where does this word live in me? And you're like, what could be the word for that? Judging is like Western suburbs. Let's just say, I mean, that's a judgment. Where does this word live in me? Okay, why am I judging? I wonder what it is. Interestingly, let's do a bit of a deep dive. Do I want to have more wealth? Do I want to live closer to the Western suburbs? Maybe, maybe not, maybe. Where am I judging? Do I want to be married? Is that person that's driving that car married? Maybe she doesn't work and he's the one out, and that's triggering you, that she's not working and driving a nice car and he's out doing all the work. Maybe something in you would like to not work so hard and have nicer things, right? So turn the mirror inward. Where does this word live in me? And then what am I making it mean about me? Because we all tend to put ourselves into a hierarchy. What am I making this mean about me? I'm making it mean that I'm less than. I'm making it mean that they're arrogant. I'm making it mean that they're judging me for having less than. What are you making it mean about me? What are you making that word mean, right? Because we will attach an emotion to it. So number 4, once you've done that, is we neutralize the charge, because you cannot shame yourself into a breakthrough. You can't force yourself and judge yourself to have a breakthrough. We have to actually meet yourself where you're at and neutralize the emotional reaction you're having to that experience or that word or the thing that's happening outside of you. So whether you breathe, move, dance, ground, if you're triggered, whatever shifts your body from survival to safety. So for me, I notice when I get triggered, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And because I can feel something rise in my body and I can feel a judgment. I can feel it coming, right? And now I can catch myself in it. And I either move, dance, I'm not going to be honest, break out and dancing if I get triggered and I'm at the supermarket. But interestingly, you'll see what happens in your body, right? You'll maybe shallow breathe. Something will shift in your nervous system, but it's to get it back on track. It's for me, I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. I love saying that to myself. I'm like, that's interesting. That's really interesting. And that always seems to settle my nervous system because it takes me out of judgment, triggered, and it takes me into curiosity. And when we go into curiosity, we get to have a look at things through a different lens. We get to say, that's interesting. And then it gives you the space. And then you can say, what am I making this mean about me? What do I desire more of? Where am I maybe envious? Where am I getting triggered? We create that space. So we need to shift your body from that survival, the trigger, the chemical reaction that's going off in your body, into safety. And you need to find a way that can do that. A regular meditation practice will make it easier. Breathing, moving, walking away. But also what we don't want to do is walk away, cut, and run, right? We want to walk away, yes, maybe cut, but then investigate, integrate. See what comes up when you really ask yourself with honesty. Okay, number 5, reclaim the gift. So every shadow has a light side. If you are triggered or judging someone for saying lazy, do you actually need more rest? Are you actually envious that you're calling it lazy, but is that a sign that you actually need a bit of rest in your body, that you would like to put yourself first a little bit more, right? If you are triggered by someone being a victim in their marriage, a victim in their relationships, a victim to their circumstance, a victim to money, where are you not taking responsibility in your own life? What aspect of your life are you ignoring or avoiding? How can you take that victim trigger judgment and bring it into the light for yourself? What is it showing you? Maybe it is showing you that you need to stand up in an area of your life. Selfish, as I said, might be self-care. Someone's arrogant might mean that you want to actually feel more seen. You want to be able to stand up a little prouder, a little louder. Where are you self-abandoning? If we see someone as arrogant, it generally will point a light of the fact that we're self-abandoning somewhere. So the next thing, number 6, integrate with compassion. So as we've just gone, what could this mean? Reclaim the gift, right? Integrate with compassion is integrating. Integration isn't about perfection. It's about owning all of you with love. So integration is about seeing yourself as the whole. Seeing yourself as every emotion, everything that we're judging, every trigger, it's all actually a part of us in some way or not. It's all there, but we've just decided to forget the fact that we're human and those parts of us actually exist within us as well. Maybe 1%, 5%, 10%, but it's there. So when we integrate with compassion, we want to give ourselves permission to go, that is part of me. Yes, I am understanding that maybe I'm judging because someone looks lazy. Maybe I want a little bit more rest. We integrate, right? We own all of our emotions. We take radical self-responsibility for our emotional reaction to situations that are happening outside of us. Because when we don't take radical self-responsibility, we push the power and the energy away. And what we want to do is we want to keep it inside our body. Number 7 is practice consistently. So this is actually, this work that we do is a way of life. Each layer reveals the next layer, reveals the next layer. I made a commitment to this world a very long time ago that this is how I was living. And I know it's the biggest and the best decision I ever made for myself is to do this inner work, is to investigate my blocks, my shadows, my ego so that I can shine. I mean, we are here to evolve. We cannot evolve in safety. Pain is required for human evolution. We must be shown pain so that we can evolve and move and create the lives that we desire. And when we shy away from this work, we're shying away from the pain. We're saying, you couldn't cope. You wouldn't be able to do that. So we stay stuck. We stay the same. We stay numb. This work is to be practiced consistently. And it is a way of life. Each layer reveals the next and reveals the next. And it's something that I've come to love and welcome and really actually enjoy. As uncomfortable as it can be, I really enjoy it because I have the evidence of knowing what is on the other side, which is that emotional freedom. So imagine what could change if you stopped running from yourself. If you could look at your triggers instead of spiraling, instead of judging, instead of, being a bitchy, whatever you want to say, if you could look at them and say, thank you. Like, I see you. I see every part of you. I see that little girl that's jumping up and wants to be seen. I see that trigger. Like, imagine This is where emotional freedom begins. It's not about becoming perfect. This is about becoming whole. And when you own your shadows, you stop hiding, you stop hustling for worthiness, you stop outsourcing your power, and you start to live from truth. You start to be able to ask for what you need. You start to be able to stand up for what you desire, and you get that beautiful self-responsibility to create the life that you so deserve. This is exactly where we begin inside the MiSELF method. So before we talk about wealth, purpose, or abundance, or business, or self-confidence, we do this work because when you feel safe in your body and free with your shadow, everything else flows. So if you are hitting glass ceilings in your business and you want more money, but you have a shadow wound about money, that's where you'll constantly stay. If you want to bring in a relationship, but you have a shadow wound about relationship, that's where you'll constantly stay. In your patterns, in your triggers, in your judgments. It is just how it just is. This is how the energy works. There's nothing else that you can do to change your outside circumstance without looking in. This work that we do is inside out. It's not outside in. Outside in is you change, you do this, you stop so that I feel safe. And that's where you stay stuck. If you want to be powerful, if you want to transform, if you want to grow, it is an inside out job. The MiSELF method, doors are open right now. If you are ready to integrate your shadow, get unstuck, book a call with me today. I'll put a link in the show notes. But I know more than anything in this world how incredibly freeing this work is. So if you really, really desire something different for yourself, book a call. Get curious. Get out of judgment of yourself and ask for support. And let's see where this goes. I'll see you next week.